They threw me out into the freezing night when I was pregnant and helpless. I slept under bridges and spoke to a child I never got to meet. 2 decades later, they tried to steal my success through the court system. What they did not know is that I spent every day preparing for that moment. Script. Families are supposed to protect you. They are supposed to love you. But some families teach you your first lesson in betrayal. When I was 17, pregnant, and terrified, my parents threw me out into a snowstorm and shut the door while I begged on my knees. I lost my baby alone that night. I thought the pain would kill me. 20 years later, the same parents returned. Not for forgiveness. Not for love. They came to take everything I built. My companies. My fortune. My son. That night they tried to destroy me again. But what they did not know was that I spent every day preparing for that moment. This is the story of how I survived. And how I won. People say pain makes you stronger. They say suffering shapes you. They say time heals. I used to believe that too. Until the night my parents threw me out into the freezing dark and taught me what real abandonment feels like. I was 17 when I learned that love has conditions, and family can become your first enemy. It was snowing so hard that night that the streetlights looked like ghosts drifting through white fog. I stood shivering in our front yard, clutching my coat around my stomach, trying to shield the tiny life inside me from the cold. The wind felt like knives slicing through my skin. My mother, Helen Carter, stood in the doorway with her arms folded, her face stiff and cold, the porch light outlining her like a statue carved from stone. "You made your choice," she said flatly. "Do not come back here expecting forgiveness." Behind her, my father, Richard, stared at me with the same expression he used when discussing broken furniture or disappointing business clients. "You are not our daughter anymore, Maya. You ruined our reputation. Go fix your mistakes somewhere else." I begged. I cried. I fell to my knees in the snow until they closed the door and shut off the light. And for the first time, I realized I was truly alone. I walked through the city all night with nowhere to go, slipping on ice, hugging myself tightly to hold both my body and my mind together. Every breath burned. Every step felt heavier than the last. I whispered to the baby inside me to stay strong, that we were going to be okay, even though I did not believe it myself. By dawn, I collapsed near the back entrance of an old community shelter, shaking violently from the cold. A woman with a warm voice and tired eyes found me curled against the wall. Her name was Serena Hale, and she changed my life. She wrapped a blanket around me and helped me into the shelter. For the first time in hours, I felt heat. She held my hands between hers until they stopped trembling. "You are safe now," she whispered. "Nobody is going to hurt you anymore." But I did not know what safety felt like. My body was weak. My heart felt heavy, and my soul felt cracked. I was drifting between consciousness and darkness when a sharp pain tore through my stomach. I screamed before I even realized I was losing my child. The world spun into flashing lights and sirens and strangers rushing around me. I saw Serena crying, holding my hand tightly. I saw nurses trying to save what could not be saved. I saw white lights blur into silence. When I woke up in the hospital, the room was dim and quiet. Serena sat beside my bed, holding my hand gently. Her voice was soft when she finally spoke. "Maya, I am so sorry. The baby did not make it." The words shattered every piece of me that was still holding on. I turned my face to the wall and screamed until my throat bled. I screamed for the child I would never meet. I screamed for the family that abandoned me. I screamed for the part of me that died that night. In that moment, something inside me changed forever. My heart hardened like steel cooling after a violent fire. I promised myself 2 things. 1, I would never depend on anyone again. 2, one day, my parents would regret the night they turned their backs on me. Serena stayed with me through every hour of recovery. She helped me get back on my feet, found me a place to stay, helped me finish school, and later gave me a job in her growing business network. For the first time, someone believed in me. For the first time, I believed survival was possible. And I worked. Day and night. Every shift, every class, every project felt like an armor I was building around myself. Years passed, and the weak and broken girl who had been thrown out into the snow disappeared. In her place stood a woman. A woman who built an empire brick by brick. A woman who earned every success without handouts or apologies. A woman who learned how power feels in the palm of her hand. A woman who never needed a last name to be respected. Maya Hale. A name I earned myself. I had almost forgotten the Carters. Almost forgotten their voices, their faces, and the cold door slamming shut. Until 20 years later, they came back. Not for forgiveness. Not for love. Not even for me. They came back for money. Millions. My father stood in my office doorway one bright morning, dressed in a perfect suit, smiling like he belonged there. My mother beside him, acting like she was proud of me, like she had not thrown me into the snow to die. Maya, my father said calmly, we need to talk. We believe we are entitled to half of everything you built. I felt the world go silent. The past hit me like a punch to the chest. And as I stared into their shameless faces, I felt something new. A cold, steady fire rising inside me. They thought I would break again. They had no idea who they were dealing with now. I stared at the two people who once called themselves my parents. The same people who abandoned me when I needed them most. Now they stood in my office, surrounded by the empire I built with my own hands, pretending they had any right to be there. My voice was steady and cold when I finally spoke. What exactly do you think you are entitled to? My father smiled like he was negotiating a business deal, not stealing from his own daughter. Half, at minimum. Legally, we raised you, supported you, invested in you for 17 years. Technically, we consider that a contribution to your success. Your legal team will understand. My mother nodded, her practiced fake smile unchanged. We were thrilled to see you doing so well, Maya. It is truly impressive. But family supports family. You would not want your own parents to struggle, would you? Struggle. The word nearly made me laugh. They lived in a mansion. They drove luxury cars. They owned multiple properties. They did not come because they needed help. They came because they smelled money. I folded my hands calmly on my desk. You abandoned me. You left me on the street to die. My mother blinked once but kept smiling. You are exaggerating. We gave you space to grow. The audacity was breathtaking. Before I could speak again, the office door opened and Adrian Wolfe, my attorney and trusted partner, stepped inside. His expression sharpened immediately when he saw the Carters. Adrian had been with me for years, through every win, every failure, every battle. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, he said coolly. You were not invited here. State your business and leave. My father handed him a thick envelope. We are filing a claim for half of Maya's estate. If you fight it, we will go public with certain information that might damage her reputation. I felt ice crawl through my veins. This was not just greed. This was blackmail. What information? Adrian asked calmly. Oh, we will let the media uncover it. Emotional instability. Psychological trauma. History of violent outbursts. Medical records from when she lost her mind and ended up hospitalized after losing her child. That should convince the court that she is unfit to run companies and parent a child. My heartbeat froze. They were going to use the darkest year of my life against me. Adrian took one step forward. You will regret threatening her. Leave. Now. My parents turned to leave, but my father paused in the doorway. You will hear from our lawyers tomorrow. I hope you make the smart choice. When the door closed behind them, the silence in the room felt suffocating. Adrian placed the envelope on my desk, but I pushed it away. I know what is inside, I whispered. They think they can destroy me again. They think I am still that broken kid begging in the snow. Adrian's voice softened. They have powerful attorneys. They will create a narrative that makes you look unstable. If they get public sympathy, the court will lean their direction. We need to prepare. They want to break me, I said quietly. They plan to record something. They want proof I am dangerous or emotionally unstable. Adrian nodded. I will start the counter strategy. But Maya, you need someone you trust to help gather evidence. Someone who knows their tactics. As he said those words, a memory surfaced. A name. A face from the past. Cole Bryant. He was the only person who had ever protected me before I met Serena. The boy who stood between me and the world when nobody else cared. The boy I lost when my parents took everything from me. We had not spoken in 20 years. But if anyone knew what my parents were capable of, it was him. Find him, I said. I want him here. Adrian hesitated. Are you sure? I looked out the tall windows of my office at the city I had conquered. I felt the old fire rising again. If they want war, we will give them war. That night, I returned home to the place I built with love and sweat and grief. My living room lights glowed softly. The quiet hum of the fireplace filled the room. I looked at the framed photo of Jace, my adopted son, smiling with his small arms around my neck. I promised him every night that I would never let anyone hurt him. Now that promise was being tested. A knock sounded at the door. My heart jumped. It was far too late for visitors. I approached slowly and opened it. Adrian stood outside, rain falling behind him. In his hand was a file. He stepped inside, closed the door gently, and looked directly into my eyes. They are not just after your money, Maya. Something in his tone made my stomach twist. What do you mean? He opened the folder and placed a document in front of me. A custody petition. My hands went numb. They are filing for guardianship of Jace, Adrian said softly. They want to take him away from you. They claim you are emotionally unfit to be a parent. The world tilted. For a moment, I could not breathe. Then something inside me snapped wide open. They took my child once. I would die before I let them do it again. I looked up slowly, my voice sharp as steel. Call Cole. Tell him we start tomorrow. Adrian nodded and stepped back. What is the plan? I felt a cold, clear calm settle over me. The same lesson they taught me 20 years ago. I turned toward the window, watching lightning crack across the sky. Never underestimate the girl you tried to destroy. The next morning felt eerily calm, like the stillness before a tornado touches the ground. I woke before sunrise, my heart already pounding, my mind sharpening itself like a blade. I stood in front of the mirror, staring at the reflection of the woman I had become. Not the terrified girl abandoned on an icy street. Not the broken mother who lost her baby in a freezing emergency room. Now I saw someone different. Someone unstoppable. I dressed in a black suit, tied my hair back tightly, and walked downstairs just as Adrian knocked on the door. His expression was tense, but when he looked at me, something changed. He nodded, as if he could already see the outcome. Are you ready? He asked. I have been ready for 20 years. He handed me his phone. He is waiting outside. My breath caught slightly. I stepped onto the porch, rain misting softly across my skin, and looked out at the dark car parked by the curb. The door opened, and out stepped Cole Bryant. Older now. Broader shoulders. Deeper eyes. A scar across his jaw I had never seen before. But beneath all that, he was still the same boy who once stood between me and humiliation when my father tried to hurt me at a dinner table. The person who held me the night my world first fell apart. His eyes softened the moment they found mine. Maya. Hearing my name in his voice again broke something open inside me. For a moment, the world felt like it was spinning, like I was 17 again, crying at the kitchen table while he held my hand and told me to breathe. Thank you for coming, I whispered. You saved my life once, he said quietly. It is time I return the favor. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. I know what your parents are planning. I have documents, recordings, everything from years ago. They are worse now than they were back then. And they are dangerous. I know, I said. That is why we need to do this carefully. Adrian joined us, holding a leather portfolio. We need to trap them legally. We need them to expose themselves in front of witnesses and recording devices. We need them to admit their motive out loud. Cole nodded. And they will. They are arrogant. They think they have already won. They just need to believe they are in control. I took a slow breath, steady and powerful. Then we let them think exactly that. That afternoon, I called my parents and told them I was willing to negotiate. Their tone shifted immediately, like snakes sliding from behind polished masks. "We are glad you are willing to be reasonable, Maya," my mother said, the false sweetness thick in her voice. "We can talk tonight. Privately. Just family." I felt Cole and Adrian listening carefully as I responded calmly. "Of course. Just family." My mother paused, confirming something silently with someone on her side. "Tonight at 7. At the old Evergreen estate. You know the property." As if I could ever forget the house where they had first humiliated me. "I will be there," I said softly. When the call ended, I turned to Adrian. "We need audio, visuals, documentation, and 2 hidden witnesses. This cannot be just our word against theirs." "I already arranged it," he said. "Detective Harper Quinn will be listening live with a warrant in place once we trigger it. But we need them to incriminate themselves first." Cole rested his hand lightly on the table. "What are you going to do, Maya?" I looked up, fire burning behind my eyes. "I will give them exactly what they want. A chance to think they broke me." The Evergreen estate looked exactly like I remembered, vast, silent, and hollow, with echoes of cold laughter lingering in the walls. I parked the car slowly and stepped out, the air thick with distant thunder rolling across the sky. Inside, the lights were dim. My mother and father sat at the long dining table, smiling with the same artificial warmth that once fooled the world but never fooled me. "Maya," my father said smoothly, "we are glad you came. We know this has been difficult for you." Difficult. Losing a child alone in the snow was difficult. This was strategy. I sat across from them, my hands folded, my voice soft as silk. "I do not want conflict. Tell me what you need from me." My father leaned forward, confidence blooming across his expression. "We want legal guardianship of Jace and 50% of your assets. You will sign the documents tomorrow morning. If you do that, we will keep things private. If you refuse, we will make sure the world knows you are unstable and unfit to be a parent." Behind me, I heard the faint click of a recording device activating. My mother smiled thinly. "We know what happened to your first child. The breakdown. The screaming. The hospital. Nobody wants a mentally unstable woman raising a boy. This is what is best for him." Something inside me snapped, but not the way they hoped. I lifted my eyes slowly. "Tell me what you said the night you threw me out. I want to hear it again." My father laughed softly. "You mean when you were crying and begging on the lawn? You looked pathetic. We saved our reputation by cutting you off. You were a disgrace, Maya. And now," my mother added proudly, "your success belongs to us. Legally, morally, and publicly." My hand moved under the table and pressed a small button. Cole stepped out from the back hallway, followed by Detective Quinn and 2 officers. My parents turned white. Detective Quinn held up the recorder. "Thank you for your confession. This is over." My mother stood violently. "You set us up." I rose slowly, calm and unshaken. "No. You set yourselves up the night you abandoned me. Tonight, I simply let you reveal who you truly are." My father lunged forward, eyes raging. "You think you won?" I stepped back, my voice calm and clear. "I did win. I survived." The officers seized them as they screamed threats and denial, but nobody listened anymore. When the door closed behind them, the room fell silent except for the rain pounding against the windows. Cole stepped beside me, his voice low. "You did it, Maya." I breathed out for what felt like the first time in 20 years. "No," I said softly. "I just finished what they started." 2 weeks later, I walked into the courtroom with my head held high. The gallery was full. Reporters packed every bench, their cameras ready. The story had already spread across headlines. The community, the business world, and even strangers wanted to see what would happen next. My parents sat at the defendant's table, hands cuffed, expressions twisted with disbelief. Without their money to protect them, without lawyers who could rewrite reality, without control, they looked like completely different people. Small. Broken. Empty. Adrian stood beside me, placing the case files on the table with calm confidence. Cole sat just behind us, hands clasped, watching with steady eyes. Detective Quinn and her team were prepared with every piece of evidence. The judge entered and the room went silent. Today we will review charges against Richard and Helen Carter, including attempted extortion, coercion, blackmail, defamation, and attempted unlawful custody removal of a minor. Hearing those words brought a fire into my chest that felt like justice itself breathing. The prosecutor presented recordings from the Evergreen estate. The courtroom listened to my parents admitting the plan to steal my assets, to take Jace, to destroy my reputation, to rewrite history. Their voices filled the speakers like poison rising from the depths. When it ended, the silence was louder than any scream. The judge turned to me. "Ms. Hale, would you like to speak before sentencing?" My legs shook slightly as I stood, but my voice was steady. For 20 years, I lived with the memory of being thrown into the snow like trash. I lived with the pain of losing my child alone, with no hand to hold, no voice to comfort me. I rebuilt myself from the ground with nothing but strength, grief, and determination. And now I stand here to say that what you did to me did not break me. It made me unstoppable. I looked directly into my parents' eyes. You taught me that family is not blood. Family is loyalty, love, and protection. You showed me exactly who I will never become. My son will never know the pain you created. And I will never let anyone take him from me. A tear slipped down my cheek, not from sadness, but release. I survived the night you tried to erase me. I survived losing my child. And I survived you. You no longer have power over me. This ends here. The judge nodded solemnly. Thank you, Ms. Hale. He turned to my parents. Richard and Helen Carter, this court finds you guilty. You are hereby sentenced to 12 years in state custody with no possibility of early release. You are permanently prohibited from contacting Ms. Hale or her son. Restitution will be paid for emotional and financial damages. The gavel struck. It sounded like a door slamming shut on the past. My parents screamed in protest. My father pounded the table, shouting that this was not fair. My mother wailed that they were the victims. Officers dragged them away, their voices fading into echoes that no longer mattered. The moment they disappeared from sight, I felt something heavy lift from my chest. A weight I had carried for decades finally cracked open and dissolved. Cole stood and stepped toward me. It is over, Maya. I exhaled slowly, the world suddenly quiet, peaceful. It is over, I repeated, and for the first time, I believed it. We walked outside into bright sunlight. Reporters shouted questions, but I did not stop for them. I paused at the top of the courthouse steps and looked up at the sky. A breeze brushed against my face, gentle and warm, like the first soft summer after a brutal winter. Adrian placed a hand on my shoulder. What will you do now? I smiled, a real smile, the kind that comes from a place untouched by fear. I am going to build something different. Something bigger than a business. A foundation. A sanctuary for abandoned teens and young mothers with nowhere to go. A place I needed once. Cole stepped beside me, pride shining in his eyes. You are turning your scars into armor. No, I said softly. Into wings. I looked out over the city I fought to stand in, the world I carved with my own hands. My life starts now. And with that, I walked forward, free at last. Thank you for watching my story. If you have ever been silenced, abandoned, or underestimated, remember this: pain does not make you weak. It forges you into steel. Never let the people who broke you decide your future. Stand tall. Speak your truth. And fight for your freedom. Subscribe to TwistRoom for more real emotional stories with shocking twists and powerful endings. And always remember, nothing is what it seems until the twist reveals everything.